Night in college basketball anywhere compares to opening night at Rupp Arena, college basketball's winningest program. And tonight, the preseason #1 team in the land, the Kentucky Wildcats, open against the Antelopes of Grand Canyon. Wildcat fans hope it'll be a memorable season, and John Calipari is going to try to do it in a memorable way.
We're going to find out if we truly can two platoon against the best teams. Is there a chance? Do we two platoon for a while and then figure out that this group's better? I've said it before, this is not communism. If a couple players deserve more time, they're going to play more. If one of the groups deserves more time, they're going to play more.
In this Veterans Day week, John Calipari talking about liberty and basketball for all. Dave Baker alongside the coach, Darren Horn. Darren, you know how difficult it is to get 5 guys to play together. What about 10 coming in 5 at a time?
Well, it's a good problem to have, and he's doing the platoon system so that he can make sure he gets all 10 guys on the floor and take advantage of this talented bunch.
2 platoons. The first is the blue, and they will start off tonight as Kentucky is the preseason #1 for the 2nd straight year, and unusually back for the 2nd straight year, a number of guys, including the Harrison twins.
Well, that's the thing that stands out about the blue platoon is that there's 4 returning starters in that group. Why are they the blue platoon, Dave? Simply because they wear the blue jerseys in practice.
And speaking of practice, how about the guys in the whites? They'll be the 2nd platoon that comes in. Tyler Eulis, the outstanding point guard. Booker, Marcus Lee, another freshman, Trey Lyles, and the vastly improved 7-footer, Dakari Johnson. The Cats tonight will be taking on the Antelopes of Grand Canyon. They're a team that was 15-15 in the WAC last year. They're in the 2nd year of a 4-year process to become full members of Division I. Tons of excitement and potential in this program, and much of it because of their head coach. That is Thunder Dan Marley, who had such a great NBA career, a 3-time All-Star. And boy, Darren, he has got the excitement and he has got the support for this program.
Well, it's a program that's on the rise. A lot of financial support at the for-profit university. And they got an outstanding coach in Dan Marley and Todd Lee, former Kentucky Wesleyan head coach, associate head coach there.
And we are playing in the SEC. Kentucky in the home white with the first possession. And that is going to be basket interference against the Antelopes as Kentucky jumps out to the early lead.
And you see Harrison going to the post early, taking advantage of the size on the perimeter. A lot of people talk about the length of this team, referring to the inside guys. I think the perimeter guys pose just as big a threat, Dave. We saw it on that first possession with the point guard post up.
A lot of people like those quick guards. I know you have said consistently you can't coach big, and that's why you love the Harrisons. Nice box out by the freshman Karl Anthony Towns.
Good job by Grand Canyon of getting back in defensive transition. It's priority #1 if you're going to stop these Kentucky Wildcats.
How many times have Wildcat fans seen the Harrisons knock down a triple from outside the arc?
Cal extending a little full court pressure early on in this game. One of the reasons he can do that, Dave, is Willie Cauley-Stein, 7 foot, but moves his feet like a perimeter player. It's why the NBA is so high on him.
Aaron Harrison, known as the scoring brother, but it's Andrew with the first 5 for the Cats. Nice pass, and Okafor just lost it.
Dave, if you get the ball that close to the basket against Kentucky for a layup, you have to convert. You're not going to get many opportunities.
How about 5, now 7 in a row for Andrew Harrison.
You see Dan Marley wants his team to take some time off the clock, make Kentucky play a little defense, lower the possession count in this game, Dave. The higher the possession, the more it favors the more talented team.
Grand Canyon did a nice job of moving the basketball, and finally it's Royce Woolridge, the senior from Phoenix, who gets the first bucket for the Lopes. Towns is fouled on the spin. And there you see Dan Marley, and you see Grand Canyon in Phoenix, a member of the WAC, listed on the New York Stock Exchange as Lope. And it's been a good investment, my friend.
If you bought it last year, it was a good investment. It's doubled in value in the last year. Really a great story. It's a university on the rise and a basketball program on the rise in the WAC conference.
I think this basketball program has doubled in value in the last year as well. Here's Harrison again. That's the first miss of the night for Kentucky, and that means it's the first miss of the night for Andrew Harrison. Woolridge is fouled. Towns, who drew the foul at the other end, picks up his first.
We saw Kentucky switch that ball screens with Karl Anthony Towns, Dave. It's something they have not been able to do in the past. They're looking to do a little more this year. But if they're going to do it, he's got to stay down, move his feet, and keep the guard in front.
Woolridge missed that free throw, and the first substitute of the game. Kerwin Smith, 6'9", 200-pound freshman from Dallas, checks in. And as John Calipari would do, we've heard a ton of talk about the platoons, and he brings in a single sub, and that's because Willie Cauley-Stein is having a pit stop and getting some new shoes on the Kentucky sideline. So that brings Marcus Lee into the lineup. Fittingly that all preseason they've talked about the platoon deal, and then there's a one sub, and you see Cauley-Stein putting on the fresh pair of shoes.
Now, I think one of the advantages we've seen early in the first two exhibition games against Pikeville and Georgetown, Dave, has been that these guys know that they're going to play. So they've given great effort on the defensive end, and on the offensive end, tremendous unselfishness, averaging 30 assists a game in their first two exhibitions.
Poitras strong on the post up, and Darren, I think most people are going to find out that's the toughest deal against Kentucky, is that they can post you up at every position.
At every single position, and from the three spot where Alex Poitras and Trey Lyles are going to play, they're going at 6'8". No matter who's in, no matter which platoon's on the floor, Dave, they're going to be 6'8" at the three spot.
Poitras gets the free throw to go. Cauley-Stein checks right back in and into the lineup for Grand Canyon. Number 4 is Ryan Marley. He is the nephew of the head coach. Redshirt junior from up in Rockford, Michigan. And the Antelopes looking for their second bucket of the night. Pretty move right there. And Smith couldn't hang on to it.
That's twice that Grand Canyon's gotten the ball right at the rim with a chance to score, and has come away empty-handed. Have to finish those plays against a team of this caliber in UK.
Aaron Harrison with a floater. And every Kentucky field goal has come from a Harrison. Nice feed by Marley. And they're going to call the jump ball. Smith had the position, but again, that Kentucky height, too much to handle.
One of the reasons Cal can extend the pressure with this team is no matter which platoon is in, there's always going to be a 7-footer protecting the rim at the end of the press.
Alternate possession goes to Grand Canyon. And you see in the background there the white platoon for Kentucky getting set to check in at the next dead ball.
Royce Woolridge with a nice drive. He jumped into the defense, created the contact, nice little pump fake, opened up the lane for the clear finish at the rim.
Poitras. And after the miss, he got it back and was throwing it down. The white platoon for the Wildcats comes in when we come right back. SEC Network Basketball is brought to you by Franklin American Mortgage. It all begins with home. Number 1 Kentucky with the early 4-point lead over Grand Canyon here in the regular season opener. And yep, that's 5 new Wildcats that come in. The white platoon makes its 2014-15 debut for the Cats.
Several advantages of this platoon system from a coaching perspective, Dave, but one of them that I really like is that John Calipari's eliminated the excuses from any guys early on that, man, I'm not getting to play enough, coach. I could show you more if you give me some minutes. He's gone in and told them ahead of time, you are going to play. What you do with those minutes will determine if you get to play more as the season goes on. He's put the ownership back on the players, and he's getting great effort and unselfishness early on because of it.
Alex Poitras at the free throw line, a member of that blue platoon. He'll have the 2 free throws, and then unless he clinks one off, Trey Lyles, the 5th member of that white platoon, will check in. I would think as a coach, Darren, it would be a great situation for you as we see Lyles check in, because you don't have to worry about guys, as they say, trying to get their own.
Well, that's exactly what's happening. These players know they're going to play, so they're confident to go out and give great effort defensively and offensively, not try to force shots and score the basketball and create numbers, but to play unselfishly and play team basketball.
So each of these platoons is going to have a little different feel, a little different flavor. This is the white, and you can see big Marcus Lee, the way he can play defense on the perimeter. Shot clock now under 10, and there's Ulis with a steal.
Probably the only player on either platoon, Dave, that doesn't finish that with a dunk that brings Rupp to its feet.
And again, it's like a pitcher changing speeds and changing locations. It just gives you a little different look, and you really have got very little time to adjust to it.
Well, with 10 guys, even though this team is not going to be an all-out trapping pressing team like the old Florida teams or maybe Shaka Smart's VCU, they're still going to be able to wear opponents down.
They get it inside. And again, you see Dakari Johnson didn't get the block, but he certainly altered the shot.
Impressive job by the Lopes at getting back in transition on transition defense. You got to get back and get your defense set.
First turnover of the night for the Wildcats as Ulis is called for the travel.
Well, Ulis simply shot the gap on the cross-court pass. You can never throw a lateral cross-court pass against an athletic team that can shoot gaps, and Ulis took advantage of the weak pass and turned it into 2.
A nice drive there. The one thing from a John Calipari standpoint, at least early in this game, is they have had some challenges guarding the dribbler.
Part of that is because Grand Canyon doing a nice job of spacing the floor. The key to great offense, especially at the NBA level, is having good floor spacing. Dan Marley knows a thing or two about that. This is a guy that was a 3-time All-Star, led the NBA in 3-pointers made one season. This team doing a good job of spacing the floor right now.
That's Sam Daly with a basketball. Sophomore from Australia who's checked into the lineup. And Booker lost it on the way up. Great save by Booker, and Lee missed the layup. Fans, Sunday night, the Zoo goes wild for college basketball on the SEC Network. First-year head coach Kim Anderson brings his winning ways to Columbia. Ryan Rosberg and senior Keanu Post look to take down Horizon League champ Valpo. It's Sunday at 6 on the SEC Network, and watch ESPN. And on the inbounds, the Antelopes turn it over. Excuse me, Kentucky turns it over to the Antelopes as they step on the sideline.
Well, you look at this game right now, Dave. We're only about 7 minutes in. Kentucky up 8. Grand Canyon's missed 3 layups at the rim. You have to finish easy ones around the basket. They have done a nice job of getting back on defense. You see the double from the top.
How about that offensive rebound by Lee?
Maybe the most dangerous thing about playing against Kentucky on the defensive end is even if you do a good job of stopping the first shot, can you keep them off the offensive glass?
Lyles on the floor. And they say he didn't touch it last, but it was his hustle that keeps the ball with the Wildcats. Their percentage of finishing plays has certainly not been as good as it was with the Blues squad, but this platoon is certainly playing at a higher tempo, Darren, and it's a really different look that Grand Canyon is getting.
Well, you've got Tyler Eulis, who can push the pace. Marcus Lee, who's a tremendous athlete at the 4 spot. They've been getting the ball inside, but facing the double team have not handled it well. Johnson with a good look, he just doesn't finish it.
And physically, he's gotten himself in such good shape. That's a play he could not have made a year ago.
Well, give Rock Oliver, the strength coach of Kentucky, a ton of credit. All of these sophomores look better, and none better than Dakari Johnson.
Harrisons have each dropped between 10 and 15 pounds. We approach the 12-minute mark of the first half. Grand Canyon still hanging around. And there's the first triple on the first field goal attempt for Indiana's Mr. Basketball, Trey Lyles.
And if you're Grand Canyon, you'll live with that shot. If you've got a choice between Dakari Johnson finishing at the basket and Lyles having to make a 3, you'll take the 3-point attempt. What created this opportunity was Lyles did a nice job of stepping up into the slot to free himself for the shot. Good throwback by Tyler Eulis. Really impressed with his pace, Dave. For a freshman point guard with the kind of speed he has, doesn't get out of control, sees the floor really well.
What a pass. How about Dakari Johnson off that set play to the freshman?
I think Trey Lyles wanted that one thrown up to the rim. Johnson almost took his head off, but an outstanding look. A good finish.
And Marley wanted an illegal screen called. Our next dead ball will be the next media timeout. And that blue platoon anxious to get back in.
And Kentucky up early with some tough defense and some fancy passing. And everybody's getting involved. Both platoons have played.
For the second straight year with the early 19-6 lead over Grand Canyon. Fans, Saturday, the college football season continues right here on the SEC Network. A really nice triple header. Noon, Florida hosts South Carolina, presented by Allstate. Then at 4, Wildcats of Kentucky look for their 6th win and bowl eligibility as they travel to Knoxville to take on Tennessee. And at 7:30, Missouri and number 24 Texas A&M take the field. It's all Saturday on the SEC Network. Those games also available live on Watch ESPN. So number 1 Kentucky on the number 1 night of the 2-platoon system. And Darren Horn, here's how it's gone so far.
Pretty even distribution. Early on, the blue team a few more points, mainly because the Harrisons have made a few shots. But true to his word, John Calipari is stuck with 5 in, 5 out at both breaks. Now we're back to the blue squad.
And Kerwin Smith called for the foul underneath against Grand Canyon. I believe it was a 7-0 run that the Whites went on. They were certainly more disruptive, but certainly, as you said, not as fluid offensively as the Blues.
And that's probably going to be the case early on. You've got more new guys and a freshman point guard on that second or white platoon.
And the foul is called as Cauley Stein posts up. That one's going to be on Daniel Alexander. So again, you see Willie Cauley Stein. He's in there with Karl Anthony Towns, Alex Poitras, and Aaron and Andrew Harrison, who currently make up this Kentucky blue platoon. Kentucky's bringing them in 5 at a time. Dan Marley's trying to find a fresh body and just get him in there whenever they can.
Andrew Harrison missed that shot, didn't step into it clean. If teams are going to double the post and try to take away post play from this Kentucky team, the perimeter guys have got to be ready to shoot when the bigs kick the basketball out.
That's one thing that has been somewhat effective that time Baseline drive by Braun put him on the end line, but that's what you got to try to do against this team, I guess.
Well, you've got to attack Kentucky, Dave, but you've got to move the basketball first and get their defense in some kind of rotation. Any defense, but especially one that's 6'6" at the smallest spot. You've got to move them some before you try to attack them. That time, Braun just dribbled out of bounds for Grand Canyon, 6 turnovers.
Downs didn't draw any iron. We saw DeAndre Davis, a 6'1" freshman from Austin, Texas, check in at that last dead ball for Grand Canyon. Jumper, and it's a pretty one. Royce Woolridge, whose dad was the late Orlando Woolridge. He's the great nephew of the great Willis Reed. As Paulie Stein is able to answer, but Woolridge is a guy that can generate some offense for Dan Marley.
Well, this is a guy that originally started out at Kansas, so he's played in big environments. You know, we've seen Kentucky switch ball screens early in this game. This time, Willie Cauley-Stein does a good job of switching, but he's a little bit flat, and he's got his hands down on the score. Woolridge just raises up, drains one on him from beyond the arc.
Woolridge leading all scorers with 9, as you see Aaron Harrison and his numbers from a year ago as he drew the foul at the other end. And that's Jerome Garrison, 6'3", 200-pound senior from Phoenix. This Grand Canyon team, 7 freshmen, 2 redshirt freshmen, a sophomore, 4 juniors and 3 seniors, 8 newcomers. They come from Arizona, Australia, Nigeria, and Texas.
They have more countries represented than they do states. Dan Marley's going wherever he's got to get the next best lope to help this program grow. Really impressed with what I've seen in practice from Dan and his team the last couple days.
Nice offensive execution. But Jackson can't get it to go, and here come the Wildcats. And they're going to get a push off.
Towns running down the floor and just kind of nudged Woolridge a little bit. Been a bit of an acting job.
But when you're 6'11", and you nudge somebody who's 6'3", it doesn't have to be much of a nudge.
This is true.
You never got that call here in Rupp, did you?
I don't think I did, no. Never got that one. Got some fouls called on me as a freshman playing against the Cavs.
Yes, you did. Playing for the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Boy.
Just length, Dave. Pretty good drive, but Alex Poitras, 6'8", gets a hand on the ball. See, you have to get all the way by him. If he's on your hip, he's still got a chance to get a hand on it. And then when you pick it up, there's 2 more 7-footers around the basket. That is the challenge. I think you have to attack Kentucky into the paint off the dribble if you can get there, kick it out, and then make another reversal or drive against the length that this defense has. One is not going to be enough to score consistently against this big Kentucky team.
Harrison back at the line as the Wildcats are now in the bonus. The other thing I think, though, Darren, is that Kentucky not only has that size, but they've got the athletic ability to not only go up and challenge shots, but to actually block them without committing a lot of fouls.
No, there's no question about that. That allows them, as we've seen early on, to switch ball screens, still have a chance to disrupt defenses. These guys are not just long. They have athleticism and can move their feet.
That time, Aaron Harrison, a little over-aggressive. You look at Aaron, and for people that remember seeing Aaron and Andrew Harrison play last year, physically, you talked about Rock Oliver, the strength coach. They've made a big change. The brothers told me that between them, that each of them had lost about 10 to 15 pounds. Felt like they needed to get quicker and stronger.
Well, they've gotten better in every way. Physically, mentally, they're better. How they approach the game. Andrew Harrison's been outstanding as a floor leader, making all the right plays, and it's a simple result that comes from experience. They've been through it once now.
And as unusual as the platoon system is in major college basketball, it's even more unusual for John Calipari to have so many players come back for another year in this age of one and done.
Well, he was almost forced to figure something out. He wasn't expecting this many guys to be back. He's got more guys returning than Dan Marley has for Grand Canyon.
Wildcats back on offense, and that's a sweet floater by Aaron Harrison.
That's part of the challenge of the Kentucky guards. They're so big. If they get in the paint, they can just shoot over you. Nice finish.
How about that crossover by Woolridge?
Well, it's good to have one Harrison, Dave, but it's even better to have two. Little curl action. Andrew to brother Aaron. Again, the size, pretty good defense by Grand Canyon, but just able to separate because of the strength and length and finish over top.
Another nice pass, and that's what you've got to do. And that time Okafor was able to hang on to it.
This is as aggressive a team after makes of pushing the ball in transition as I've seen John Calipari have here in his time at UK.
Cauley Stein with that block. It's the 5th of the night for the Wildcats. Okafor again. How about that play by Towns as the big fella makes the catch and the finish. And Dan Marley wants a timeout. "17 points the Wildcats have stretched the margin out to."
Well, a nice job of running by Karl Anthony Towns and a tremendous finish. But what created that are the wings that ran to the corner. They opened the floor. It started with good defense, the rejection by Willie Cauley-Stein, and then it ultimately led to a fast break. When you've got bigs that can run and wings that get out and space the floor because they're deep in the corners, it puts a lot of pressure on opposing defenses.
That was the 6th Kentucky block of the night, and as soon as they called that timeout, and you see Dan Marley still working with Woolridge right there, he knows that against about anybody else they play, that Woolridge has got a basket there, and he really made it a point to go to his star and say, hey, keep going. This is a different sort of deal tonight.
You want to stay aggressive and attack.
And Kentucky is going to attack as that white platoon is back in there now at the dead ball. It's Booker and Ulis out front, Marcus Lee, along with Dakari Johnson and Trey Lyles. This group, I think, more than that blue platoon, really extends the defense. Woolridge now looking to go to work.
Woolridge got the switch he wanted with the Dakari Johnson on it, but then you got to get past the second line of defense, and he's always going to be 6'9" or 7 foot if you don't move the other big away from the basket against this Kentucky team.
Boy, just think about this. You know, you get frustrated if you're Woolridge, and something like that happens to this Kentucky squad. Those guys have got a few minutes to sit over there and clear their head. Not so for the Antelopes or any other Kentucky opponent. And they're going to call a carry. The Wildcat pressure forces a turnover as the Cats are up big early. After that, he said, if they play like they did tonight, they're an NBA playoff team, an NBA playoff team. And you can only imagine what John Calipari said about that.
Well, obviously, Cal's reaction is the right reaction. There's no way this team, as talented as they are, is beating any NBA team.
And so then today, Cal's like, what about my man Larry Brown, who I've helped out over the year? What's he doing? Because Larry said if you take their first and second teams and split them up, they'd probably have the number 1 and 2 teams in the nation.
He went on to say something to the effect of they should run the table, I think, calling it 45-0. Probably not the kind of thing Cal wants to hear from a buddy, but that's the I think, excitement nationally, or the respect maybe that people have for this Kentucky team and the talent level, just how deep it is.
That's the target you have on your back.
And I think that probably the Arizonas and Dukes and Wisconsins might have a thing or two to say about a team having top two teams in the same building.
I'm sure that all those coaches and all those in your coaching fraternity would like to have the problem of trying to figure out how to get everybody minutes. 17 points is the biggest Wildcat lead here on opening night. And there is another block. That's the 7th block of the night. As you see the Kentucky lineup for this white platoon. As Johnson got the offensive rebound, and he'll go to the free throw line.
And one of the things that Dakari Johnson does best is offensive rebound the basketball, and because of that, he gets to the foul line a lot. 9 free throws attempted in 2 exhibition games, and he's shooting it better this year, Dave. 78% for the big sophomore.
Well, and he's going to have to shoot it even better, because Cal has talked about the fact that even tonight he may tweak with the platoons at the end of the game. And if Dakari Johnson, he can do so many things, but if he wants to be in at the end of the game, he's got to be able to hit free throws.
If you can't make free throws late game, there's a good chance you're not playing on this team late, because there's nobody that they have to have in the game because of the platoon system and the depth that they have.
Marley with a nice pass. And it looked like he had an open lane, but instead he gave it to a teammate. We're here at Rupp Arena tonight, and we've got more women's college basketball tipping off Sunday on the SEC Network. Head coach Christy Curry and the Crimson Tide look to improve on last season as they host a tough Blue Devil squad, number 7 Duke and Alabama at 8 on the SEC Network, and watch ESPN.
Grand Canyon has been able to get to the foul line by getting some penetration off reversal, but unable to finish around Kentucky's size. I think when you get in there, Dave, you have to make the extra and then the extra pass to move this Kentucky defense and get some more open looks.
Booker off the curl. And this is the deal with this Kentucky team. They are athletic and relentless.
They may be as good on the second shot as they are on the first shot. A good percentage is to be somewhere around the 40s. That's a great percentage of getting 40% of your misses back.
And an offensive foul called against the Lopes.
This team has a chance to be well above that number, just keeping it alive. It's 6'11", 6'10", 6'9", batting it around on the backboards. Lee ends up with it last, so he says, I'll go ahead and dunk it. Why not?
Foul went against Miroslav Jakic, 6'11" freshman redshirt from Wallet Lake, Michigan. You talked about the fact they may be better on the second shot. That's because they're getting more opportunities tonight.
Well, Dan Marley's going to be frustrated with that play. One of the things they wanted to do coming into this game was stay at home in the post, not give a lot of help, so you had a chance to block out the man you were matched to. Dakari Johnson got that one anyway.
Marley's nephew missed that jumper and then committed the foul at the other end.
Well, that play a result of the conditioning you talked about, Dave. Probably not a play Dakari Johnson could have made last year. First of all, I don't think you would have been running that fast, but a tremendous catch and job attacking the basket, but got clubbed pretty nice there.
Just bounced right up and went right to the free throw line. I'm telling you, he's a guy, you know, you want to look for those stories about what can happen when you work hard and everything. He's a kid that's always had the skills, but he had to get himself in shape, and boy, has he done that. So here comes the preponderance of the blue platoon back in, with the exception of Johnson. He makes this second free throw. He'll be replaced by Karl Anthony Towns. With the tough grab and an even prettier stick back.
Good call. Definite extension of the arm by Garrison to try to create some space.
The Cats stretching it out against the Lopes in the regular season opener. Thank you, men. Look forward to hearing from you in just a couple of minutes. 36-11 here as we're at the under 4 timeout. Dave Baker, Darren Horn. Darren, I'm telling you, we've talked a lot about this Kentucky team's athletic ability, about the prowess that they show. They pass that looks test, but boy, they can absolutely create problems defensively for folks as well.
Well, there's no question they're able to extend their defense. We've seen a lot of that tonight. That's because they're in the platoon system. Players aren't trying to save themselves. They're giving maximum effort on defense, and their bigs have the ability to move their feet. I think that's the thing. The size on the perimeter and the bigs' ability to move their feet gives them a chance to be an outstanding defensive team.
Only 4 first-half field goals for Grand Canyon as we approach the 3-minute mark. And Darren, in terms of what they can do defensively, not only alter shots, but take care of them.
Well, it's been 3 different guys, and you see all of these have been aggressive plays to the basket by Grand Canyon, but the size and length just too much. You almost have to get into the paint against this team, and if you don't have a clear-cut finish at the rim, you've got to then make the extra pass back out and maybe even move it again. Because on just one rotation, Kentucky able to recover with tremendous size and create problems at the basket for finishers.
And the Lopes get themselves a block.
They got tired of getting it done to them, Dave. Okafor. Not to be confused with Jahlil Okafor.
No.
From Duke.
But still takes it right back at Alex Poitras, and John Calipari doesn't like the execution, and he takes a timeout. You see those block numbers?
And really the biggest challenge for Grand Canyon right now has not just been how good Kentucky's been defensively, but the fact that they've turned the basketball over 10 times already. And when you do that, you don't give yourself an opportunity to score at all. You're creating a long night for yourself against a team that's superior in talent.
And the one thing we probably have not talked about enough that I think is really going to show itself as this season goes along for Kentucky. Yeah, the athleticism and all the accolades of these guys from a high school and collegiate standpoint. This is a really unselfish basketball team.
They've really done a nice job of sharing the basketball, and I think a big part of that is a result of the platoon system. Because they know they're going to play, they're not seeking out shots and trying to get points, and they understand their role very clearly.
How about that tough putback by Alex Poitras? Towns getting out in the passing lane, almost put referee Alanda's Pool into the media table.
Ward just got to throw that ball ahead. If you've got somebody ahead and open, you got to hit him. He kept the ball and then went in and tried to finish. He hasn't picked up on yet, Dave. There's always 2 guys at the rim that are at least 6'8" or bigger.
I mean, you guys that coach, you talk about making that extra pass. Oh my gosh, how many extra passes you got to make to get a clean look against this team?
I think you have to attack the second rotation and make the extra pass against Kentucky to get clean looks, or do what Matt Jackson just did and step up and drain one.
Second 3 of the night for Grand Canyon. Andrew Harrison is fouled on his way to the hoop. That's going to be the 3rd foul of the first half against DeAndre Davis. Kentucky shooting from the field 14 of 32. Now the Wildcats 8 of 13. Make it 9 of 14 from the free throw line for just north of 60%. And that's got to be better, because you would think over the course of a season they're going to get plenty of chances.
Well, this is a team who's going to get a lot off of offensive rebounds, which is going to increase the field goal percentage as the year goes on.
Oh my goodness. That's big guys maybe throwing the ball just a little too much, huh, Coach?
A little too much, and Aaron Harrison with the pass to Towns where he had to catch it. John Calipari not happy with that. Why are you throwing it to Karl Towns out there where he's got to try to make a play with it?
I think he probably feels like he's got at least a couple of pretty good guys that handle the basketball. He wants it in their hands. Under 2 minutes to play in the opening half. The 2014-2015 regular season opener for the nation's preseason #1 team. Holly Stein got a piece of another one.
Well, Garrison, that was a frustration shot. He hasn't scored yet. Attacked a set defense and found Biggs at the rim.
Andrew Harrison draws the foul. As you see, Dan Marley, great guy, awesome competitor. Can you imagine what kind of sale he's able to make when he comes into a home?
I'd say it's probably pretty impressive. Pull out a few NBA pictures, stories.
Come and say,
show
hey.
the numbers.
And say, hey, would you like to come and spend your winters in Phoenix?
The weather is great. The school is on the rise. And the basketball program's on the rise. This is a team that I think, Dave, is going to qualify for an NCAA tournament out of the WAC and win that tournament before they're eligible to play in it. They still have 3 years counting this year in the transition into Division I before they can play in the NCAA tournament.
They made it into the collegeinsider.com tournament last year. They were knocked out in the first round by Pacific, who made it all the way to the semifinals before losing here in the state of Kentucky to eventual champion Murray State. Here's Marley. How easy did that look?
It looks easy, but it's not just because they're talented. That's a play that they work on every day in practice. If you go to Kentucky practice, you're going to hear John Calipari talk about if you get in the paint, throw it to the rim. The guards look for it, and the bigs expect it.
And DeAndre Davis, with those 3 fouls in hand, took it right at Karl Anthony Towns.
Well, Davis finished the only way you can when you're driving against a bigger guy. He jumped into the big's body first and created contact so that he could create space and get the finish.
Final seconds of the first half. And neither the Cats nor the Antelopes able to execute in the final seconds of this first half, but still 0.8 left on the clock.
Just enough time for a quick catch and shoot. And throw it to a guard on the run to square and catch. Or maybe try to throw over top to one of the bigs.
And a chance for John Calipari to look and work on an end of game situation. Aaron Harrison got it to Towns, but he couldn't finish. But for much of this first half, finishing has not been much of a problem. Willie Cauley-Stein on the business end. Cats up big at the half. Dari Noka and Tony Delk standing by at our SEC Network studio. Guys, the nation's preseason #1 team, the Wildcats of Kentucky, rolling at the break here In the 2014-2015 opener, Dave Baker alongside the coach Darren Horn. D, it's a Kentucky team that's got a lot of talent, but they're getting it done around the rim at both ends of the court tonight.
Well, that's the key, Dave, is that it's not just offensively, it's defensively as well with their size. On the defensive end, if you get to the basket, they're going to move it. It's going to be hard to finish at the rim against this Kentucky team. And then offensively, on the offensive glass, their second shot may be their best, and they're not just getting them, they're turning them into points. It's been a problem for Grand Canyon. It's going to be a problem for everybody they play. And the reason, Dave, it's not just one or two guys, it's multiple guys on both ends.
Normally, when we talk about halftime stats, we talk about two teams, but here for Kentucky, it's two platoons.
It's two platoons, but still one team. You see the minutes a little uneven because there's 5 segments, but the point distribution pretty good there. Probably start back with the white. Let's see if Cal keeps the minutes even and starts back with the white platoon here to start the half.
Don Calipari's talked all preseason about the fact he's got that blue platoon and the white platoon, and the one question he's got is who is going to be his finishing 5. And he told us after shoot-around today that he might very well tinker with that a little bit. You see Andrew Harrison here on the bench, and that is in fact the white platoon that will start this second half of play. Tyler Ulis along with Marcus Lee, Devin Booker, that man Trey Lyles, and Dakari Johnson. For the Antelopes of Grand Canyon, it's going to be Alexander, Garrison, Okafor, Jackson, along with the man with the basketball, Royce Woolridge, who's been the standout for the Antelope so far. Boy, and that's got to please their head coach. They come right out of the locker room and get a bucket on their first possession.
Well, it's obvious Dan Marley said, guys, we've got to get some reversal first. Quick reversal, slip on the screen by Alexander led to the open fade. Knocked it down.
That was just the 7th field goal of the game for Grand Canyon. And now maybe for the first time tonight, they try to put together back-to-back buckets.
To get in the paint against Kentucky and make that kick out to the corner, it's got to be a quick second pass and then another reversal or drive. If the ball stops, the defense sets.
Woolridge. Pretty hesitation on Ulis, but again, he had help behind him. And that was Okafor, who got another block. Ulis extending that defense. That was a long attempt at a triple that Alexander couldn't find the range on. Here's Lyles again.
You know, we've been talking about the advantage of the platoon system and the Kentucky team being unselfish because their players know they're going to play. In games like this, teams like Grand Canyon have got to be careful we don't get down big. And, hey, I'm going to start getting mine against the #1 team in the country. Alexander shot that last one from about where we're sitting, Dave. And we're almost at half court.
And that's a pretty drive right there. That's the kind of play that Marley wants. The drive from Matt Jackson. Ulis with a long 3. I like this kid.
He's capable of making that shot. Hasn't made a 3 in the first 2 exhibitions. Good for the Kentucky team to see him knock that one down. Good read. Defense went underneath the screen. He stroked it.
Willis got some rest at practice yesterday. He's been dealing with a shin issue. One other Kentucky note, Derek Willis, sophomore from over in Mount Washington, Kentucky, has not practiced the last 2 days. And he is not here on the bench tonight dealing with an illness. But Kentucky with the depth that they can absorb it.
Well, Tyler Ulis makes a good read coming off the screen. You're going to see the defense go underneath the screen. Opens up the open look for Ulis. He's under control and knocks it down. I like this kid's pace, Dave. He doesn't force the game. He lets it come to him. And he's shown that he can knock down the perimeter shot.
And Darren, when you look at this platoon system, you know, as much talent as you have on the court, Lee is called for the foul against Alexander. If you had that much talent, you still couldn't platoon unless you had somebody who could run the show for the second unit, like that young man.
Well, there's no question that Tyler Ulis is the whole key, or the biggest key, to this platoon system. We've heard Cal talk about that. He mentioned it after practice today. If I don't have a point guard on the second team, I can't platoon at all. I got to have a guy that can come in there and run the second squad or the second platoon.
I don't think you can say biggest. Most important, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
He's going to be the smallest every time he suits up for Kentucky at 5'9".
Every time.
Now, do you think he's 5'9"?
No.
I think that's generous. But that kid has got game, and you see he and the guys on the white platoon heading back to the Wildcat bench. So the Blues are back in there. It's Aaron and Andrew Harrison, Willie Cauley-Stein, Alex Poitras, and Karl Anthony Towns. Smith called for the foul. And is there any question that that guy's motor is still running hard?
Well, he's a competitor. There's a reason you're a great player. It's not just because you have ability. It's because you understand what it takes to win. And you're a competitor. Dan Marley has that. He's bringing it and instilling it in this Grand Canyon program.
They've been able to hear John Calipari yelling from the Kentucky bench, move your feet. And a foul is going to be called against Smith. Sunday night, the Zoo goes wild for college basketball on the SEC Network. First-year head coach Kim Anderson brings his winning ways to Columbia. His veteran Tiger squad, led by junior Ryan Rosberg and senior Keanu Post, looking to take down Horizon League champ Valparaiso. Sunday at 6 on the SEC Network, and watch ESPN. Love the opening week of the college basketball season. Get a chance to see everybody. And they say that that ball was knocked away from Andrew Harrison and went off his leg.
Andrew Harrison driving to the rim. You got to bring your free hand to the ball right here. Keep it on your outside hip away from the defense. He swung it over to his right hip on the inside. It got knocked away and then bounced off his leg.
Credit Jerome Garrison, who started all 30 games last year for the Lopes. All those turnover numbers, and you might be right about Alexander. He's looking for that shot now.
You know, he's much more aggressive since the half. Maybe Coach Marley told him to be.
You're
maybe.
right.
But he just took another challenge shot over a 7-footer that was not a good shot.
Towns goes to work on him, and he's called for the travel. And John Calipari is going to break the platoon as Dakari Johnson is headed back in. The Cats in control. Coverage begins at 7 on ESPN, and here's a look at the AP Top 10.
Well, 3 of the teams in that matchup are going to be in the top 10. Duke, the other team, with 9 McDonald's All-Americans. You see another SEC team, Florida, there at number 7.
And Kentucky with 5 of those top 10 teams on its schedule before they get into SEC play. Of course, they'll face number 7 Florida once league play begins. So Dakari Johnson in there for Karl Anthony Towns, and that is the first non-platoon, non-equipment substitution made tonight. Harrison's out there with Poitras, Cauley-Stein, and now Dakari Johnson. And it looks like it's going to be a brief timeout because Towns now back at the scores table, ready to check in. Alexander again.
Normally when it's a quick sub like that, and the guy that just got brought out of the game is getting put right back in, Dave, it's a quick teaching point, reminder of something they've probably been working on, get him right back in the game.
Boy, for all the good things we've talked about Kentucky doing, their shooting percentage, not what John Calipari would want it to be, especially in the second half. And Woolridge able to answer again for Grand Canyon. That guy has got some game, and that was the first basket in a long time by Andrew Harrison. Kentucky now just 3 of 11 from the field here in the second half.
One of the challenges that John Calipari has with this team, Dave, is staying focused, playing with great energy throughout these games early on that might not be really close. You see, Grand Canyon literally ran into each other and opened a wide open lane for Andrew Harrison to take it all the way to the rim. But one of the values of the platoon system is you've got a better chance of keeping guys focused when they know they're only going to be in a short amount of time.
Poitras is called for the travel. Karl Anthony Towns is checked back in. So the blue platoon now back in there intact. As you take a look at Towns, who was such an outstanding player at St. Joseph in New Jersey. Marley steps back over Poitras. John Calipari wanting his team to pick up the tempo.
Too many 1 and 2 pass shots for Grand Canyon. It's hard enough for him right now without taking bad shots. And then you've got to get back and sit down on defense, try to get in the gaps. That's 2 drives right to the rim for Kentucky.
Towns on the help. And it's going to be an offensive foul whistled against DeAndre Davis.
The 7-footer giving up his body on defense. Down on the offensive end, Aaron Harrison getting all the way to the rim. One of the advantages that both Harrisons have is at 6'6", if they can get in the paint, Dave, they got a better chance of finishing with that size around the basket in traffic.
Many people talk about, you know, hey, are these guys quick enough or whatever? But you, from your coaching seat, have been consistent in the fact that who's going to match up with these guys?
Well, there's no question. It's because of their size. On both ends of the floor, they create problems. Well, everybody got very excited in Lexington about Tyler Ulis's performance in the Bahamas and all that he brought, and almost a little bit of an Andrew Harrison better watch out. And as a coach, I'm looking at it going, Andrew Harrison's fine. He's 6'6" when the game starts, and he's 6'6" when it ends. And Ulis will be a nice little addition, but he's not taking his spot.
Alex Poitras getting it going at 6'8". And we want to remind you that coming up tonight at 10 on the SEC Network, join host Dari Noka, network analyst, discussing all the SEC news of the day on SEC Now. It's available on Watch ESPN as well. You want to talk about a guy that's got to distribute. Dari Noka with football and basketball.
The radio show on Saturday mornings, Dari and Mel.
He's got it all going on.
He's one of the best in the business.
And one of the few times that this sellout crowd of 23,000 plus on opening night is not like to call. Boy, that Kentucky defense just keeps collapsing. You think you've created an opening, and it takes somebody getting lost as Marley gets a bucket in Rupp Arena.
Poitras picks up the foul, but again, Kentucky looking to push the basketball in transition on a made basket up the sideline. Poitras just ran him over in that case. That one's on the guard a little bit. Andrew Harrison's got to be sure that he sees ahead of what Poitras is going to run into if he throws it to him.
Grand Canyon looking for a bucket in the white platoon at the scorer's table, ready to check in at the next dead ball. Ollie Stein caught one of the chops, but the Cats doubling up the Antelopes. And Coach K, who coached those 8 on the international team, has got 9 of his own. So just between Kentucky and Duke and Indianapolis on Tuesday night, that's 18.
Well, Coach K must have found out coaching USA basketball. I like coaching McDonald's All-Americans. Easier to win games with them.
And there you see John Calipari. You know, one thing about it is he will tell guys in the recruiting process that, you know, he's going to coach them. And he coaches them hard, and it has never seemed to get personal, and the guys take the way he does it well, and that's probably the reason he got, what, 3 more last night?
They got 3 more, and they know exactly what they're getting into now that Cal's been here and sent several guys to the draft and now playing a platoon system. 3 really good ones. The #1 ranked class by ESPN right now, just ahead of Arizona. And a little bit of everything in it. Isaiah Briscoe, a guard. Scal, like Bissiere.
See, I knew you were going to knock that out of the park.
And Charles Matthews from Chicago as well. #1 in the land again.
Great hustle by the Lopes. And you talk about those draft picks. 19 NBA draft picks over 5 seasons. 15 first-rounders. 2 overall #1s for John Calipari.
And one of the things that I think goes not talked about enough, Dave, is that, yes, all those guys got drafted and they're playing in the NBA, but for players to understand, hey, only 3 of those guys are max guys. We got DeMarcus Cousins,
right,
and John Wall, and soon-to-be Anthony Davis. Eric Bledsoe got close in Phoenix, but not quite.
$70 million is not a bad compensation.
It's a max to most people, but by the letter of the CBA, it wasn't a max.
Yes. Alexander again.
That's something that Alexander can do in talking to Grand Canyon staff when it's a good shot and he's open and his feet are set.
But yeah, you know, it's not like John Calipari is just getting these great players like Lyles, but like Dakari Johnson, who threw that pass. The guys that are coming here are leaving as better players than they were when they arrived.
Well, I think one of the misconceptions for anybody that's a so-called one and done is that they don't get better while they're in college. If you're playing in a program of this caliber for a coach like John Calipari or at Duke, for Coach K, you're going to get better in the year that you're there. You see the nice ball movement here, a little high-low action. Good seal by Trey Lyles. Look how he gets Marley up on top and opens the passing lane. If you're passing that basketball, Dave, you want to throw it to the corner of the backboard. Good execution by Dakari Johnson.
And how about Marley answering at the other end with a long triple? And when we talk about Ryan Marley, that would be Dan Marley's nephew, not his son.
Son is younger.
He's over on the bench, and I mean, he's been working it hard tonight. He's over there crouched down like a coach.
Dan says he's going to be a player. In fact, I think Cal's already recruiting him probably, right?
Yeah, Calipari said just based on the fact he was Dan's son, he'd offered him. I think he's like 12, isn't he?
That's smart. Good bloodlines. People in the horse country around here know about that,
yes,
don't
sir.
they?
Yes, sir. Pedigree. Pretty move. Trey Lyles getting more and more comfortable with each trip.
You know, he really is. A lot of people forget that he didn't get to play in the Bahamas. He was out with an injury, so he's behind the other freshmen.
Missed like the very tip end of his high school play and did not get to play in the Kentucky-Indiana All-Star Series or all summer.
So he's just now coming back to form and getting comfortable.
And Alexander will go to the line for 3. There's Dan Marley's son. I mean, he is working it on that bench. Kid's got some range, too. And of course, a great opportunity for Grand Canyon to come here. And there's the picture with Cal and Thunder Dan outside Cal's office at the Joe Kraft Center.
Several representatives from Grand Canyon here today to experience the #1 program in the country.
And why not? And this is part of building a program. Grand Canyon's going to play Kentucky. They're going to play Indiana. They're going to play Harvard, all in the top 25. Booker on a kick out, and he couldn't get it to go.
Grand Canyon also starting home and home series with San Diego State and the University of Louisville next year. They're playing 20 home games this year. Unheard of for a school that's not in a major conference.
Now, certainly a lot of that has to do with Jerry Colangelo, who's a big supporter of the Phoenix area in general, of this school in particular.
Technically employed by the school, and we've seen what he's done with USA basketball and changing that culture and having some impact on Grand Canyon University and their basketball program as well.
And Johnson with a shot clock at 2. Maybe the best half-court possession of the night for the White Platoon.
And again, that's where you get excited about Tyler Eulis. Here's a freshman. He didn't panic at the end of the shot clock. Under control, the dish, the finish.
Great save, Johnson. And just to finish that thought, yeah, credit Jerry Colangelo. But for all these teams in the North and in the East, it's probably not too difficult to get them to schedule a game in Phoenix in the middle of winter.
That's a decent trip, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Both of Kentucky's platoons getting it done. The Whites in the half court as the Cats pull away. No surprise that the joint is jumping here in Lexington tonight. Opener of the 2014-2015 season, Dave Baker, Darren Horn. Darren, of course, played in the Kentucky State High School tournament here in Rupp Arena. And folks here love their basketball.
We opened the tournament in 1991, Dave, on a Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock.
Yep.
And there were 19,000 people here. Almost full. Basketball crazy state.
They love this game, and they have for decades. And there's an awful lot to love about this team that so many in the Commonwealth have such high expectations for. Preseason #1 for the second straight season. Last year they came up 1 game short before losing to UConn in the national championship game. And how about that follow by Cauley Stein?
Better job by Karl Towns on that play, even though he didn't finish. Karl Anthony Towns, excuse me. Even though he didn't finish, took his time, tried to finish closer to the basket than where he caught it, which is what you want from a post player.
Boy, and that's a pretty jump shot. Royce Woolridge is some kind of player.
Grand Canyon's banged 3 threes here in the last few minutes. Loosening up the rims a little bit.
Woolridge played a couple of seasons at Washington State, 16 games at Kansas. And there's DeAndre Davis. And John Calipari talked about the fact that his team needed to experience a little adversity. And they have gotten some here in the latter stages of this second half, even though they've got a big lead. And that is going to be the 5th foul of the night against Kerwin Smith. And we are going to see this, Darren, a lot against Kentucky this year, because that 2 platoon thing that we keep talking about, you're going to have a lot of bodies when you play Kentucky.
You're going to have a lot of bodies, and you have to be in great shape if you're a team that only plays 6 to 8 guys, because Kentucky's always going to have fresh bodies on the floor. And then even if they have to extend some minutes down the stretch, as John Calipari has talked about, for a finishing team, or maybe as guys start to separate themselves, they're still going to be in the 25 to 28 minute range probably, and fresher than those guys that are playing 34 and 35 minutes a game.
$27 points, the Kentucky lead. And there is another Wildcat block. Number 9.
We've seen Kentucky's bigs do a good job of running rim to rim in transition tonight. A big reason for that, they know they're going to get the basketball. Bigs will run if they know they're going to get fed.
I would think the other reason is because of that depth. They know if they don't run, they won't get any run.
There's no question about that. One of the things the Platoon system has done, as we've talked about already, is that they are going to play hard because they know they've only got a short amount of time while they're in there, and if they don't, there's somebody else that can play.
John Calipari has a tendency to get a bit animated on the Kentucky sidelines at times, and he was just gyrating over there. I think it was the best form he's shown since that hip replacement.
Like Trey Lyles, maybe he's just now getting back into form since he had a surgery.
I think Trey's rehab was more extensive than Cal's.
That's where the haters on Andrew Harris, no, he's not that athletic, I don't know how quick he is. That didn't look quick? I think the kid's terrific in the open floor, and he's a nightmare if he can get into the paint because of that size and strength.
I think the long stride that he has makes it look like he's not going as fast or as hard as he really is. Fans, we've got women's college basketball tipping off Sunday on the SEC Network. Head coach Christy Curry and the Crimson Tide look to improve on last season as they host a tough Blue Devil squad. Number 7 Duke in Alabama at 8 p.m. on SEC Network. And watch ESPN. Christy Curry's more than a bit animated on that Alabama sideline as well. She is bringing that kind of attitude to her Crimson Tide women's program.
Big early season non-conference game.
Chance to make your mark. And now Cal, as we approach the 5-minute mark, remember how he said he was going to maybe take a look at some different things with a finishing 5?
This is a good finishing 5 to have on the floor. You've got both Harrisons and Tyler Eulis, 3 capable handlers and shooters, along with bigs that can make foul shots.
So you go 3 guards, you go Karl Towns, you go Willie Cauley-Stein. You've got all guys, including the bigs, that can handle, that can shoot it pretty well and take care of things at the free throw line. And
you still got 2 rim protectors at the basket to help defend the rim and rebound the basketball. It does put a little bit pressure on the Harrisons, and they've got to get down and help on defensive rebounding. And that's really the only weakness that comes with it. And that's really not a weakness, it's just a matter of focus.
Woolridge has got the task of checking Eulis. I believe that's what you were talking about right there.
He's going to get in the paint and shoot over you, but defensively, if you leave their big to swipe at a ball, you're probably not going to block on a 6'6" guard driving the rim. Now you're not blocking out the big, and the offensive rebounding chances go up for Kentucky. I think you got to make a decision when you play Kentucky, Dave. Am I going to make people finish one-on-one and stay at home and block out, or am I going to play help and recover?
Towns battling underneath. And it's Kentucky basketball. You know, that last play, Darren, it seems like everything is a catchphrase these days. And when Cal first got here, it was the dribble drive. We haven't heard a lot about that because it's been all about the platoon. But that last play was the essence of the dribble drive, where he says, whether you got a good shot or not, just get it up there, and we've got somebody that'll go get it.
Get it on the rim. If you can get it on the rim, it's a good shot for us.
Wow. Look at that big fella. Willie Cauley-Stein has not played that much college basketball. People forget that. And he's not going to be able to do that against everybody they play. But if he can do that every now and then, you really got to play him straight up.
Well, that's a flash of why the NBA scouts are so excited about Willie Cauley-Stein, his ability to run the floor, move his feet defensively, especially on pick and roll defense, and then a little offensive flash.
Whether it's pick and roll or just rolling, the Cats are cruising in the opener. Kentucky looking to put the finishing touches on an opening win as they lead Grand Canyon 76-41. And that gives us a chance to take a look at tonight's Good Hands play, brought to you by Allstate. And Darren Horn tonight has been defensive hand.
Well, we usually think it's offense, don't we, Dave? But
Right.
it has been on the defensive end for Kentucky tonight, blocking shots and protecting the rim. And sometimes good hands on defense creates good hands on offense. You see Towns flying down the middle for the finish.
And when you play this Kentucky team this year, as you see those block numbers, most nights it's just going to be hand-to-hand combat, trying to survive.
If you try to attack this set defense because of their length and their ability to protect the rim, you're going to have problems. You've got to attack this defense off of multiple reversals and inside-out action.
So again, John Calipari has gone with those two platoons, and now at the end of game, shaking that up a little bit as Tyler Ulis is in there with Aaron and Andrew Harrison, Karl Anthony Towns, and Willie Cauley-Stein. Look at Ulis go to the floor. He was the last man to get a hand on it.
Tremendous effort play by Tyler Ulis. I think that actually got knocked off the foot of Grand Canyon. Tough angle for the official.
They get it in bounds and immediately turn it back over.
One of the things you'll get with this lineup that we are speculating, Dave, is a potential finishing lineup
Right.
for this team we've heard John Calipari talk about is the ability to apply a little more pressure on the perimeter with both Harrisons and Ulis in.
21st turnover committed by Grand Canyon, and you saw Dan Marley put his arm around Woolridge, who really played hard tonight. 15 points, 5 of 11 shooting, but inside effort like that and execution just too much for these young antelopes to overcome.
You have to stay home on that big. If you come up, you get caught in no man's land. You can't help on the drive because he throws a lob, and you're not stopping the catch and dunk.
Look at Cauley-Stein with the on-ball defense as he took it away from the 6'1" freshman.
But those hands from the 7-footer.
Oh my gosh.
Against Kentucky, you've got to stay at home. Watch number 5. He comes over. He's caught in no man's land. He's not taking away the drive, but he's not keeping a body on Willie Cauley-Stein. I think, Dave, you got to keep a body on that big, make the guard finish.
I mean, you want to talk about the essence of this Kentucky team, in my opinion. You've got Cauley-Stein that gets that dunk, and at the end of a blowout game, he's not taking any time off, and he gets an on-ball steal against a guard.
Two things. Maturity. He's a junior. He's back. He's got some experience. He understands what he's playing for. And potentially the platoon system. They know they've got to bring it hard on every single possession.
Whistle underneath.
Inside out action off the double by Grand Canyon. Booker's got to relocate to the open spot so he gets a cleaner look on that one.
Boythrus, triple team, and he's tied up on the held ball. And there you see yesterday at practice, John Calipari passed out Final Four rings. And yeah, it was a recognition of what they did last year, but he told his team while we were there at practice there, and he said, this is a reminder of the fact that we came up one short. And that's another thing that drives guys like Willie Cauley-Stein.
Well, he's back to win a national championship, and like all good coaches, John Calipari using every opportunity to instill the mentality and focus that you need to try to play for a national championship, including giving out rings. It's not a celebration. It's a reminder. We came up a little short, guys. This is what we're working for.
Willie Cauley-Stein got all kinds of publicity during that NCAA tournament run for taking great video on the bench. And this year he wants to be the subject of those videos.
There's no question about it.
Out with that injury, fully recovered.
Good things are ahead for this Grand Canyon team.
Dominique Hawkins in there now for the Wildcats. First time we've seen number 25 there.
Grand Canyon has struggled tonight like most teams would coming in this environment. But it's a program that's building. It's got a lot of support. Strong coaching staff with Dan Marley and associate head coach Todd Lee, former head coach at Kentucky Wesleyan College. This program is in good hands, and I think going to be a force in the WAC, Dave, in the years to come.
I really do. We're going to look up as Lyles gets it to go and draws the foul. We're going to look up this year one night when everybody's checking scores, and you're going to see, they're going to say, who? Grand Canyon beat who?
There you see a shot at Todd Lee, former Kentucky Wesleyan head coach. A lot of basketball experience on this staff. He's the guy that was a very successful head coach, kind of helping Dan Marley with the transition from the NBA game, where you just tell a really good, talented player, hey, go do that. And with college guys, you got to repeat it and drill it and keep coming back to it. And so I think they're a terrific match in tandem over on that bench.
And a block underneath. And I really like the demeanor of this Grand Canyon team to this point in time, Darren, because, you know, they've had some things happen to them in this game tonight that aren't going to happen to them against other teams.
So when you're Dan Marley, you've got to take a game like this and you've got to teach from it when maybe there's a game plan thing that they didn't follow. Whether they could have stopped it or not with the talent level is not the point. It's following game plan. And then you got to take the positives, the things that went really well, and point out to your guys, hey, if we can do this against a team like Kentucky, we can do this against the rest of our schedule and in our league, and you got to build on it, learn from it. Maybe the biggest advantage of the platoon system, Dave, it has changed the message from who's going to play, how's he going to get everybody in, to this is about our team getting better and winning, and even flying to the rim like we saw Alex Poitras. So you better get a body on him, one of the highest risers in college basketball.
Johnson with Kentucky's 10th block of the night. Daly gets the follow. But in the opening act of John Calipari's platoon system, you got to say so far so good.
A lot of different guys contributing because of the platoon system. Really good defensively around the rim. Did not share the basketball as well as they did in the exhibitions. John Calipari want to see that improve.
Kentucky blocked 10 shots. They forced Grand Canyon into 21 turnovers. They put 4 players in double figures. Led by Andrew Harrison, 16. Trey Lyles with 14. Willie Cauley-Stein had a dozen. And Dakari Johnson with a quiet double-double, 10 and 12. Kentucky wins 85-45. Stay tuned. SEC Now comes your way next.